That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, a couple announcements. This video should come out July 17th, so that's tomorrow for me, but today for y'all obviously. And if you message me on Patreon today, I'm going to be going on a road trip, so I'm not going to really be on my phone, not going to be on my laptop. Usually I try to reply to y'all right away most of the time. Most of the day I'm on my laptop doing schoolwork or doing whatever, and I'm able to reply to y'all within seconds. Tomorrow, not going to be like that. Y'all may not hear from me at all. Just want to make sure y'all know that heads up. And secondly, I may try to get a video out for y'all on the 18th. If I can't get a video out for y'all, I will definitely get y'all just a Patreon episode on Patreon. But nonetheless, y'all are definitely going to have something. I wasn't able to make anything today just because it was probably my busiest day in a very long time. I had family come in. I had a bunch of schoolwork to do, and I just couldn't get to it. But nonetheless, I'm going to talk about a video that was requested a couple days ago by Point God, and this is valuing quarterbacks and quarterback trades in SuperFlex leagues. And I've been getting more and more SuperFlex questions lately. I think y'all are finally coming around to playing in SuperFlex leagues instead of those one quarterback leagues. And I know it can be challenging at first. There are a lot of things that go into it, but I'm going to talk about my simple strategy and the simple outlook that I have on valuing quarterbacks in SuperFlex leagues. And by no means am I saying that this is an 100% sound process. I am very open to being wrong on this. If y'all think that y'all have a better solution and a better strategy when it comes to valuing these quarterbacks in Dynasty leagues, or I'm wrong with something I say, please, I mean, I am not dead set in my ways here. I would love to hear y'all's thought process in the comments. Please let me know. But I am mainly going to be looking at 3 categories. I look at 2 of them, but I know the Dynasty community loves to look at a third, and I think it's a little bit overrated, but I'll get into why later on in the video. And first, let's talk about the main category in SuperFlex leagues that matter in SuperFlex leagues, but don't really matter in one quarterback leagues. And this is longevity and job security. So if you go out there in a one quarterback league and you have a significant investment in Jameis Winston, a significant investment in a one quarterback league at the quarterback position is a second round, maybe even late second round rookie pick for Jameis Winston. So he goes out there and then he loses his starter job. No big deal. I mean, you probably have 2 or 3 other quarterbacks on your roster that you can plug into that one spot. And if not, I guarantee you can go find someone on the waiver wire. So it's not going to be a big deal if you lose your starter in a one quarterback league. By no means is it going to cripple your team. Yet in a Superflex league, Jameis Winston wasn't necessarily extremely expensive last year, but he was definitely worth more than a first-round pick. So if you're going out there and you're losing that value, just completely vanishing from your roster, that's something you can't afford, especially if it's happening year over year. And that's how you are going to really become one of those bottom teams in the league, and you're going to be getting that 101 year over year. So what we're going to have to do is, we're looking at longevity and job security. By no means am I the guy coming out here and saying, hey, you need to draft Joe Burrow. He's going to be your starting quarterback for 15 years. I think anyone who says that is kind of hilarious, and they're just so caught up in Dynasty fantasy football in the way it's played. And they're like, oh yeah, 15 years. I'm never going to have to draft another quarterback again. While in reality, 99% of these people have been playing in Dynasty leagues for under 3 years. They have no idea how long of a time that is. I mean, it's kind of funny to think about. I guarantee you every Dynasty league that starts, maybe 5% of them make it to a 15-year mark, which is sad to say. But guys, think about it. Ask yourself, how long have you been playing Dynasty? Are you really trying to project 15 years out in the future? By no means is that what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look 2 years out in the future, and I'm trying to see, okay, 2 years from now, is this guy going to safely have a job? Is he going to be a starting quarterback and possibly not in the near-term future, kind of like how we saw with Andy Dalton last year and the year before? Or is he going to be a guy that is either in a backup role or just completely out of the league? So I'm trying to put them in those 3 categories. And yeah, I mean, I think if you were trying to project so far out, you're really just doing yourself a disservice. And it may be fun. It may be fun to fantasize about, oh, I'm going to get Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to pair them together, and I'm going to have the ultimate stack. And trust me, I did it. Back whenever I was in Superflex leagues and Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota came out, I was joining startup drafts, and I had this exact mindset, and that's why I'm freely making fun of it, because I remember I swear to God, this is a weird memory, and I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but I was a lifeguard sitting on the lifeguard stand, just daydreaming about my startup draft and thinking, oh man, if I can come away with Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, I am never going to have to draft another quarterback again. This is when they're coming into the league as the first and second overall picks. And I'm sitting here now. I mean, I don't have any leagues that I actually did that with, but nonetheless, if I did, it would be a completely different situation. And I know different players are different players, but that's just an example of how hard it is to project that far out. I mean, the best teams, when they're evaluating quarterbacks and drafting them in the early first round, only get it right about half the time. There's no reason to think with our dynasty projections, we should be able to go out there and try to project someone 15 years in the NFL. Now, another thing that I look at other than longevity and job security from a 2-year mark standpoint is short-term upside. In that 2 to 3 years, are they going to be able to provide quarterback 1 numbers? Are they going to be able to provide high-end quarterback 2 numbers? Because even that is extremely valuable in SuperFlex leagues. And if not, I'm not too interested in having them on my team. And a great example for this is I know a lot of people want to go out there and they want to draft Sam Darnold. But this is the exact player that I don't think we should be going out there and drafting at this point in Superflex leagues. And trust me, I've fallen into this trap a little bit less than a year ago, actually. And this is what I'm trying to get over. And this is why I'm still completely adjusting how I'm looking at these quarterbacks. But I think this is the best way I have as of now. Please let me know. Let me know how y'all do it. But I think we should not necessarily be trying to project a quarterback to go out there and increase his fantasy production by 15% in year 2, 15% in year 3, and then finally becoming that quarterback 1 that we've been dreaming about. I think we should look at a quarterback and say, is he going to be able to be a quarterback 1? Is that in the range of his outcomes either in 2020 or in 2021? And I don't think we should be trying to progress quarterback development and try to project that out in a further window just because it's going to be so hard to do. I think similar to trying to project a guy to have a starting job in the NFL for 15 years, it's kind of wasting your time. I mean, we're not going to be able to get these guys on an accurate career trajectory if we're trying to project 3 years out. That's not something I'm trying to do. But nonetheless, that does not necessarily sway me away from drafting guys like Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa, because we have to understand the thought process we're looking at them from. And that's why let me get into some exact examples of how I'm looking at this and how I'm applying this, so maybe it will make a little bit more sense, because maybe I'm just rambling. But I'm going to break down some quarterback tiers, and I'm going to explain why I put guys in certain tiers and what they really have in terms of assets. So obviously the stud tier, we have guys who have definite jobs in the NFL 2 years from now. And not only do they have definite jobs in the NFL, but 2 or 3 years from now, they are not even going to be in question whether they are going to ever be a backup quarterback in the NFL. And this is Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. And not only do I have these quarterbacks in this tier because of their long-term job security and longevity, but also they have that short-term upside. You can look at every single one of these quarterbacks and this guy's going to be a quarterback 1 in 2020. He's going to be a quarterback 1 in 2021. So if you have these guys, I mean, they are essential to your Dynasty Superflex team. I mean, they are the cornerstone pieces. They're a definition of a cornerstone piece because they are actually the guys that you can go out there and safely draft. You're not having to try to project some long-term development from them. You've already seen it. They're young enough where you know you're going to have it for the next 3 or 4 years, and it's not going to even be in question 2 years from now. So these are guys that I'm willing to draft in the first and second round of startup drafts. But now let's go down from the stud tier. Let's go down to the solid quarterback 1 tier. And this is a larger tier with a different mix of players. And by no means am I ranking these guys. I'm just putting them in buckets and trying to explain why I think their value should be around each other. So we see Joe Burrow, Carson Wentz, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Tua Tagovailoa, Daniel Jones, and Matt Ryan. So if we look at every single one of these quarterbacks, they are fantastic in one area and they are decent in another. So Joe Burrow, fantastic in the longevity category. Not necessarily because I am projecting that he's going to be a starter for the Cincinnati Bengals for 15 years, but I'm projecting that 2 years from now, Joe Burrow is still going to have that first overall draft capital attached to his name. And the Cincinnati Bengals, even if Joe Burrow is slightly disappointing, they're not even going to be thinking about replacing him. So he checks the longevity box better than pretty much any quarterback outside of that stud tier. So that's why he has to be up here. You can argue about the short-term upside. I'm not necessarily saying he has a ton of it in 2020, but I think we can safely say he does in 2021. And we're not trying to project too far out if we say that. Now we have Carson Wentz, who, I mean, he kind of rates average in both categories. I think he has quarterback one upside. I mean, if you had to project him for 2020 right now, you would project him as a quarterback one. But it is in the range of outcomes that 2 years from now, we're looking at the Philadelphia situation. And if Carson Wentz gets injured again, maybe he disappoints 1 year, gets injured the other. I mean, it's a real possibility that we are looking at Carson Wentz moving to a backup type role like a Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston. And before y'all get very upset, by no means am I saying Carson Wentz is not an extremely talented quarterback. By no means am I even trying to compare him in talent compared to Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston. I'm just saying we have to understand from a longevity standpoint what's in the range of outcomes. And it's not 100% lock that Carson Wentz is going to have that starting job 2 years from now. He probably will, most likely will, if I had to put it in a range of outcome like calculator or whatever. I'd say it's probably at the 85th percentile. But there is that question mark where maybe it's not. So he's going to not be in the stud tier and he's going to be the solid QB1 tier. Then Josh Allen, very similar to Carson Wentz. I mean, he's a guy that has all the short-term upside and he has decent longevity, but we can't 100% sure lock him in just saying he's going to be a starter in the NFL for 5 years. I mean, 2 years from now, you can really realistically see an outcome where he maybe is not locked into Buffalo. Now, Baker Mayfield, I mean, this guy provides short-term upside in my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree, and he provides some long-term stability, and that's pretty much the entire thesis of this tier. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa, he's very similar to Joe Burrow, just a watered-down version, so I definitely have Joe Burrow ranked significantly higher than Tua, but you can understand, I mean, Tua has, in 2 years from now, nobody's going to be questioning what is going on. Daniel Jones, very similar to Josh Allen, maybe just a little bit of a lower short-term upside. And Matt Ryan, I know he's a lot older than everyone else in this tier, but you have to understand, Matt Ryan 2 years from now, are we really going to be looking at him in the same light that we are looking at Ben Roethlisberger today? I don't think so. Matt Ryan has not showed any signs of slowing down, and unlike other positions, we don't really have to worry about age in Dynasty. We have to understand that maybe once you hit that 38-year-old mark, I mean, your Dynasty value will never go up, but at the same time, I mean, it's not necessarily going down. You look at what Ben Roethlisberger, that's probably a bad example. I mean, but you look at what Drew Brees was worth 2 years ago, pretty much exactly what he's worth today. I mean, if you get to a certain age, like Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, your value tanks, hits rock bottom. It's not going to move up or down until you retire. And I think we're going to see something similar with Matt Ryan in a couple of years. But nonetheless, I think his long-term stability is going to be there as well as his short-term upside. Now, let me actually throw these quarterbacks in this same tier. I don't know why I didn't wanted to put them in a separate tier, but this is Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers. All of these guys provide both short-term upside, but you can understand 2 years from now, it's in the range of outcomes. And I know people are going to say, Mason, F you. Why are you putting Aaron Rodgers in this tier? And guys, y'all know I am all about looking at what teams are doing and what teams are telling us. And what the Green Bay Packers just told us is they traded up to take a quarterback in round one. By no means am I projecting Aaron Rodgers to not be the starter in 2020 or 2021. I think he definitely has that. But 2 years from now, I mean, it's going to be a question. Hey, is Aaron Rodgers starting? Where is he starting? What is his upside? Now, let's get into different tiers. Let's get into something that is really difficult to evaluate in SuperFlex leagues, and this is the quarterbacks that have long-term stability, in my opinion. 2 years from now, I think they're definitely going to have jobs for these next 2 years. I think maybe we can look at them in an Andy Dalton type light 2 years from now, if that makes any sense with the comparison for y'all. But this is Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins. You look at their contracts, you look at their team situations, they're pretty much all locked into their team for the next 2 years. Maybe after that 2-year timetable, we're looking at them saying, hey, are they going to be around for another 2 years? I'm not here to say. I'm not here to try to project that far out, but I do know I have a ton of these guys across all my Dynasty leagues, especially the flock leagues. And why I'm putting them here, just because I don't think they really have short-term upside. I mean, we can't really see a guy like Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, or Jimmy Garoppolo going out and putting top-tier quarterback one numbers up unless they have an extremely outlier type season with either touchdown rate or just average yards per attempt. I mean, but we can easily see a guy like Daniel Jones go out there and put up a top 3 quarterback season just strictly based on his rushing ability and big play ability. And that's not going to be too surprising. That's why these guys go down a tier lower. And whenever I'm looking at this, I figured out that the 2 guys that really stand out to me that may be overvalued in Dynasty right now due to us trying to project them long term are Sam Darnold. And guys, I mean, it kind of hurts me to say. I was a guy going out there and drafting Sam Darnold last offseason going, oh my God, look, he was good as a rookie and he was so young. I mean, we can look at this guy 2 years from now. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We can make that projection. And obviously we see what Adam Gase does for him. And we see that I just don't think that we can confidently make those projections anymore. I think I was overconfident in my ability, and I think we should be really more realistic. He's a guy that it would not be too surprising if he was in a backup type role 2 years from now. So he does not necessarily have that long-term stability. And also he has no short-term upside. So he's definitely a void in Dynasty for me. And it kind of hurts. I do have Sam Darnold on a couple teams. Maybe I'll look to sell low. But with that situation he's in, with the current short-term upside and the current question in long-term stability, what is his real value? Now, another guy that I've been actually going out there and drafting and kind of aggressively, and I don't know why, maybe I'm just getting caught up in the hype train, but this is Drew Locke. The reason Drew Locke is in this bucket with Sam Darnold for me is, can we really look at him and say that he has a ton of short-term upside? I'm looking at Drew Locke and seeing him go undrafted in high-stakes redraft leagues. So that's what they're really screaming out what they think about Drew Locke to me for 2020. And at the same time, he's a second-round NFL quarterback that really doesn't have the team investment, and he has such a small sample, it's hard to project him to really have a job, in 2 years. So whenever I'm looking at Drew Locke, what I was previously evaluating a couple months ago, especially right after the NFL draft, after they took KJ Hamler, after they took Jerry Jeudy, they already had Cortland Sutton. I was extremely excited about Drew Locke, and I was going out there and drafting him. But now I'm looking at this. Maybe I'm second guessing myself. I don't know. Please comment what you think about this process and comment what you think about Drew Locke and how I'm looking at him. And now, obviously, I can't end the video without talking about the short-term quarterbacks that are going to provide you value. Just, in my opinion, I know it's going to be really just not something people are going to like. But I try to stay away from these guys, not necessarily because I think they're going to retire and be off my team anytime soon, in which they could easily be for a year. In a year. But similar to how I was talking about, maybe we're looking at Matt Ryan in a couple of years. Nothing these guys can do can ever increase their price of where you're going to purchase them right now. And not only that, I personally believe that they have low ceilings in the short term, specifically guys like Drew Brees, just because he doesn't rush the ball. Tom Brady, the only way he's going to hit a ceiling is if he throws for a similar yardage that Jameis Winston did last year. But I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to try to slow the ball down, have less turnovers, and play smarter football. Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, and you can kind of throw Cam Newton in here. I think Cam Newton has a little bit higher of a ceiling due to his rushing ability. But these are guys that I'm trying to stay away from just because I think the short-term ceiling is not necessarily there. I see them as short-term guys that have really high floors, and really that's not what I'm trying to get in either Dynasty leagues in general or especially SuperFlex leagues. But that's all I got for y'all, guys. I wish I was a little bit more organized. This was kind of all over the place, but really hope y'all got something from it. If y'all got one thing from it, it made the video worth it in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.